Casterly Rock. Casterly Rock is the ancestral stronghold of House Lannister. It is located on the western coast of Westeros on a rocky promontory overlooking the Sunset Sea. It overlooks the major city of Lannisport. A major gold mine is located under Casterly Rock. It is one of the most productive in the realm and provides House Lannister with their wealth. Lon the Clever swindled Casterly Rock from House Casterly. According to legend, Casterly Rock was found and held by House Casterly after its founder, Corlys, slew a pair of fearsome lions that lived in the gold-filled subterranean cave where the castle would be built upon. They were hoodwinked into giving the rock to Lon the Clever, a legendary trickster and ancestor of House Lannister, thousands of years ago, during the Age of Heroes. The castle was briefly controlled by the unsullied forces of House Targaryen, whose victory over the Lannister forces was Pyrrhic. Casterly Rock, nicknamed the Rock, is a castle and the seat of House Lannister. The capital of the Westerlands, it is on the ocean road and overlooks the harbor of Lannisport and the Sunset Sea. Nearby strongholds include Case and Feastfires to the west, Sarsfield to the north, and Cornfield and Clegane's Keep to the south. The household of Casterly Rock includes Maester Crelin, Vyler, Ser Benedict Broom, and Whitesmile Watt. Casterly Rock is carved out of a colossal stone hill beside the Sunset Sea. It is popularly believed to resemble a lion in repose at sunset. The Casterlys of antiquity built a ring fort on the peak, and as millennia have passed its natural defenses have been expanded with walls, gates, and watchtowers. The base of the rock contains large sea-carved caverns. The stone has been mined for thousands of years, so there are hundreds of mineshafts in the depths of the rock, as well as yet untouched gold veins. The rock has been measured at 3 times the height of the wall or the high tower of Old Town. It is almost 2 leagues long from west to east, and contains tunnels, dungeons, storerooms, barracks, halls, stables, stairways, courtyards, balconies, and gardens. In the bowels of the rock are rooms where caged lions were once kept, cells for the worst prisoners, as well as oubliettes so small that a man cannot even sit down in one. The castle contains a sept. The Lion's Mouth, the main entry to Casterly Rock, is an enormous natural cavern reaching 200 feet high. Its steps are now wide enough for 20 riders. Its port has docks, wharves, and shipyards and is accessible by longships and cogs. From below the rock thunder can be heard, where the sea comes in. The Golden Gallery contains treasures of the Lannisters, including gilded ornaments and walls. The Hall of Heroes is where the Lannisters and their close kin who have died valiantly are interred. The armor of Lannisters of old are also displayed in the hall. The Stone Garden is a god's wood in a cave within the rock. It contains a twisted weirwood, a tenth the size of Raventree Halls, whose tangled roots have almost filled the cave, choking out all other growth. History. House Casterly. The region was probably inhabited by children of the forest and giants before the arrival of the first men, and numerous animals have made it their home as well. Legend says that Casterly Rock is named for the family of first men who ruled it in the Dawn Age and the Age of Heroes, the Casterlys. After their founder, Corlys, discovered gold within the rock, the Casterlys fortified the entrance and carved halls and tunnels deep into the stone. The Lannisters trace their rule over the rock back to Lon the Clever, who tricked the Casterlys out of their castle and claimed it for his own. Some claim that Lon still haunts the fortress, which has never fallen. Kings of the Rock. The Kings of the Rock from House Lannister took their title from their seat, and members of the family founded nearby Lannisport. During the coming of the Undulls to Westeros, the Lannisters eventually invited Undulls into their realm and brought Undull youths to serve at Casterly Rock as wards and potential hostages. According to a lost scroll, Valyrian sorcerers believed their downfall would come from the rock's gold. Impressed by earlier visits to Casterly Rock and the Hightower, Roland I. Arryn ordered the construction of the Eyrie as a replacement for the Gates of the Moon as the seat of House Arryn. King Gerald Lannister raided the Iron Islands and held 100 captives in the rock. Gerald the Great then hanged a captive whenever the Ironborn threatened his lands. Before becoming king of the Iron Islands, Harmon Tuhor spent his youth at Casterly Rock as a ward. During Aegon's conquest, King Loren I formed an alliance at Casterly Rock with Mern IX Gardner, King of the Reach, against Aegon the Conqueror. House Targaryen defeated the Lannisters and Gardners at the Field of Fire, however. After the battle, Loren the Last surrendered his crown to Aegon and was confirmed as Lord of Casterly Rock and Warden of the West. Queen Visenya Targaryen is said to have been grateful that Loren rode to war instead of seeking refuge in his castle, as the rock may have withstood even Dragonflame. Iron Throne. Casterly Rock hosted King Aegon I Targaryen several times during his royal progresses. After the ascension of King Maegor I Targaryen, Lord Lyman Lannister hosted Prince Aegon and Princess Rhaena Targaryen at Casterly Rock, where the princess gave birth to Arya and Rhaella at the rock. The son of Jane Westerling was sent to Casterly Rock to be Lyman's ward. After being expelled from Faircastle during the reign of King Jaehaerys I Targaryen, Rhaena flew from Fair Isle to the Rock on Dreamfire. Lyman gave the four-headed beast a suite within his castle, but Rhaena eventually left after becoming convinced that the Lord of Casterly Rock wanted her dragon eggs. Rhaena visited the Rock during her search throughout the Seven Kingdoms for the missing area. Sarah Laster Rain, Master-at-Arms of the Rock, participated in the tourney for the completion of the Dragon Pit. Jaehaerys visited Casterly Rock during his progresses in 55 AC and 88 AC. Dalton and the Dance. The young Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen was once courted during a feast at Casterly Rock by the twins Jason Lannister and Tyland Lannister. House Lannister declared for the Greens during the Dance of the Dragons. At the start of the Civil War, Ser Tyland, Master of Coin to King Aegon II Targaryen, sent a quarter of the royal treasury from King's Landing to the Rock for safekeeping. The castle was left in disarray after the death of Lord Jason in the Battle of the Red Fork and the Lannister defeat in the battle by the lakeshore, however. Prince Daemon Targaryen, husband to Aegon's rival Rhaenyra, suggested that Casterly Rock be stripped from the Lannisters and granted to Ser Hugh Hammer, but the Queen declined. The Ironborn declared for Rhaenyra's blacks during the dance. Although Dalton Greyjoy, Lord of the Iron Islands, was able to sack Lannisport, Casterly Rock was too strong for the Ironborn once Jason's widow, Lady Johanna Lannister, barred its gates. Johanna approved an expedition to recover Fair Isle from the Ironborn, but the Red Kraken sent the heads of Ser Erwin Lannister and Lords Prester and Tarbeck to Johanna at the Rock after the plan was betrayed. As the dance wound down, Lord Cregan Stark considered marching to subdue Storm's End, Old Town, and Casterly Rock. Lady Johanna agreed to peace terms previously sent by Lord Corlys Velaryon, however. Dalton was slain at Faircastle in 133 AC. When the fleet of Lord Alan Velaryon arrived in the Westerlands, Johanna presented him with a seahorse wrought in gold. Ser Leo Costane invaded the Iron Islands, and the captured Roderick Greyjoy was made into a fool at Casterly Rock. Lord Tytos. Lady Ellen Raine, the wife of Ser Tyon Lannister, held a splendid court at the Rock as her good father, Lord Gerald Lannister, declined in health. Ellen's influence declined after Tyon's death in the Fourth Blackfyre Rebellion, however, and she left the Rock in 239 AC after Gerald had her wed Lord Walderin Tarbeck. Gerald was succeeded by his ineffectual son Tytos, a lord easily taken advantage of and mocked at feasts and balls. When Lord Tytos announced at a feast that his daughter Jenna would wed Emmon Frye, the second son of Lord Walder Frye, the Western lords were shocked and Tytos's 10-year-old heir, Tywin, publicly denounced the betrothal. After returning from the War of the Ninepenny Kings, young Ser Tywin sought to restore the power of Casterly Rock. Those who were unable to repay loans were required to send hostages to the Rock. Dorna Swift was one such hostage. Lord Tarbeck rode to Casterly Rock to speak with Lord Tytos, but Tywin had him imprisoned in a dungeon before Walderin could meet with his father. Ellen Tarbeck captured Stafford Lannister and 2 Lannisters of Lannisport, so Lord Tytos forced the feuding factions to release their hostages. In 261 AC, Ser Tywin ordered Lord Roger Rayne, Ser Reynard Rayne, and the Tarbecks to present themselves at Casterly Rock. The Banner Men refused, however, as Tywin expected. Without Tytos's leave, the Lannister heir gathered a host and quickly crushed the Rayne Tarbeck revolt. Tywin was named Hand of the King by Aerys II Targaryen the following year. House Clegane was founded after the Kennel Master of the Rock saved Tytos from a lioness attack. Late in his life, Tytos allowed his mistress to sit beside him in his hall. Tytos died in 267 AC while climbing the stairs to her bedchamber. A Game of Thrones. King Robert I Baratheon tells Lord Eddard Stark that he wanted young Robert Arryn to foster at Casterly Rock with Lord Tywin Lannister, but the boy's mother took him to the Eyrie after the death of Lord Jon Arryn. After the capture of Tyrion Lannister by Eddard's wife, Lady Catelyn Stark, Tyrion's brother Jaime wounds Ned in the streets of King's Landing and then rides for the Westerlands. After the Battle of the Camps, Ser Mark Piper suggests attacking Casterly Rock but receives little support from the rebel nobles at Riverrun. A Clash of Kings. Ser Stafford Lannister begins raising a new host at Casterly Rock during the War of the Five Kings. Expecting the Ironborn to ally with the Northmen, Theon Greyjoy desires to conquer Casterly Rock and claim it for himself. His father, Balon Greyjoy, Lord of the Iron Islands, states the rock is too strong, however, and instead attacks the north. A storm of swords. Tyrion demands his birthright of the lordship of Casterly Rock from his father, Tywin, and is harshly rejected. Tyrion suggests to his new wife, Sansa Stark, that they visit the rock, wanting to show her where he and Jaime grew up, but also desiring to keep her away from the abuses of his nephew, King Joffrey Baratheon. She remains impassive, however, so Tyrion withdraws his offer. Resting on a weirwood stump en route to King's Landing, Jaime dreams of watery caverns beneath the rock. King Joffrey dies at his own royal wedding. Lord Tywin intends to remove his son Jaime from the Kingsguard so he can again be heir to Casterly Rock, and Tywin wants the new king, his grandson Tommen Baratheon, to serve as Jaime's ward and squire at the rock where he can learn to be a Lannister. Jaime opposes the plan, however. Tywin's daughter, Queen Regent Cersei Lannister, believes she is to be sent to the rock so she cannot influence her royal son. Tywin is killed in the Tower of the Hand by Tyrion. A feast for crows. Tywin's brother, Ser Kevan Lannister, advises Cersei to return to the Westerlands to take her place as Lady of Casterly Rock. Cersei insists on remaining in King's Landing and refuses to name Kevan as Tommen's regent, and she names Ser Damian Lannister, a distant cousin of the main branch, as Castellan of the Rock instead of Kevan. Tywin's body is escorted back to Casterly Rock by an honor guard of Western knights and nobles. After Cersei's arrest by the Faith of the Seven, Ser Harry's SWIFT and Grand Maester Pycelle invite Kevan to return from the Rock and assume the regency. As a condition of Jaime's ending of the Siege of Riverrun, Lord Edmure Tully is to become an honored captive at the Rock. His pregnant wife Rosalind is to join him from the twins once she gives birth. A dance with dragons. An exile in Essos, Tyrion considers hiring the Golden Company to help him gain Casterly Rock, but the Sellswords follow Prince Aegon Targaryen. Tyrion instead joins the Second Sons and gains their support by promising them gold from the Rock. Game of Thrones, Season 1. Cersei reminds Jaime that when they were 7 years old, he jumped off the cliffs at Casterly Rock. In Winterfell, Jaime learns Tyrion is visiting the Wall before returning to King's Landing, and jokingly asks him if he is taking the Black. Tyrion claims that, were he to go celibate, the whores would go begging from Dorne to Casterly Rock, and explains he simply wants to visit the Wall. Later, on the way to the Wall, Tyrion talks to Jon Snow and explains that, as a dwarf, the only reason he wasn't left to die as a baby was because he wasn't born a peasant but a Lannister of Casterly Rock. Following a bloody brawl between Jaime and Eddard, Theon tries to convince Robb to retaliate by marching against Casterly Rock, where Jaime Lannister escaped to after the fight. However, Robb refuses. Eddard receives a report that Gregor Clegane has been scouring the Riverlands. Figuring that the mountain acts at Tywin's orders, he pronounces Clegane a criminal and instructs Pycelle to send a raven to Casterly Rock and inform Tywin that he must come to King's Landing and answer for Clegane's crimes within a fortnight, otherwise he will be branded a traitor and enemy of the crown. Tyrion introduces Tywin to the hill tribes he recruited as, My Lord Father, Tywin son of Tytos of House Lannister, Lord of Casterly Rock and Warden of the West. Likewise, in King's Landing Tywin is named Hand of the King and described as Lord of Casterly Rock and Warden of the West. After Jaime is taken prisoner by Robb in the Battle of the Whispering Wood, the Lannister bannermen hold a strategy meeting and Leo Leford suggests they can't march on the Starks at once, they must first return to Casterly Rock and raise levies. Game of Thrones, Season 2. Theon tries to convince his father Balon that, if they pledge fealty to Robb Stark and fight for the Starks in the war, the Greyjoys will be given Casterly Rock as a reward once the war is over. Balon refuses, as he claims the Greyjoys are not subject to anyone and take what is theirs. As a captive of Brienne, Jaime insists on knowing his captor's identity, and to encourage her he introduces himself first as Jaime Lannister of Casterly Rock, son of Tywin. In Harrenhal, Tywin's bannermen discuss whether to march against Robb or Stannis, and Tywin notes that Robb is too close to Casterly Rock, but his brother Kevan argues that, since the Greyjoys' attack on Winterfell has divided Stark's forces, Robb won't risk marching on Casterly Rock until he is at full force. In King's Landing, Tyrion tells Varys that he never expected to have any real power. While his brother became the youngest Kingsguard in history and his sister became queen at 19, Tyrion was merely put in charge of the drains and cisterns of Casterly Rock. During the Battle of the Blackwater, Cersei tells Sansa that she never understood why Jaime and she were treated differently. While Jaime was heir to Casterly Rock, she was sold to some stranger like a horse to be ridden whenever he desired. Game of Thrones, Season 3. After the Battle of the Blackwater, Cersei interrogates Tyrion about what he intends to tell Tywin, claiming she is worried because he slandered her to their father before. As children in Casterly Rock, Cersei had the guards beat a servant girl and Tyrion told on her. Tyrion asks Tywin to give him Casterly Rock, which is his by right since the day Jaime became a Kingsguard, as the Brotherhood cannot inherit. However, Tywin coldly refuses his request, telling him that he would let himself be consumed by maggots before mocking the family name and making you heir to Casterly Rock, arguing Tyrion would turn it into his whorehouse. In Riverrun, Brynden Tully chastises Edmure for talking to Robb proudly about his blunder at the stone mill, yet Edmure argues his actions made Gregor Clegane flee to Casterly Rock. Robb realizes that, while he can't force the Lannisters to meet them in the field and they can't attack them at King's Landing where they are strongest, he can attack them at Casterly Rock. Margaery tries to convince Sansa that her arranged marriage to Tyrion may not be so bad, as he is far from the worst Lannister and their son together would eventually become Lord of Casterly Rock and the North both. Tyrion gifts his lover Shae golden chains of solid gold from the mines outside Lannisport, smithied in Casterly Rock. However, Shae is angry at his betrothal to Sansa, and tries to convince him to go with her across the narrow sea. Tyrion refuses, as he is a Lannister of Casterly Rock. At Tyrion and Sansa's wedding, Cersei intimidates Margaery by telling them the story behind the famous Song of the Rains of Castamere. Lord Rain built a castle as grand as Casterly Rock, gave his wife diamonds larger than any Joanna Lannister ever wore, and finally he rebelled against Tywin, for which he and his whole house were absolutely slaughtered. Cersei tells Margaery that she remembers seeing the bodies of the Rains hanging high above the gates of Casterly Rock. Robb consults with his mother about his plan to attack Casterly Rock. He explains that if they take Tywin's castle from him, the lords of Westeros will realize he is not invincible. Catelyn says, "Show them how it feels to lose what they love." Game of Thrones, Season 7. At Daenerys Targaryen's war council at Dragonstone, Tyrion proposes that the Unsullied seize Casterly Rock, rather than put pressure on King's Landing, where they will likely be viewed as a foreign force against whom the native Westerosi lords could unite. The Unsullied eventually arrive at Casterly Rock and take the fortress by using a tunnel in the sewers which Tyrion created when he was overseeing their creation in the past. However, the Unsullied find the fortress severely undermanned as most of the 10,000 men strong Lannister garrison has left the castle and are headed towards Highgarden. Jaime later confirms to Olenna Tyrell that they have deliberately left Casterly Rock to fall into Daenerys' hands. He claims the castle was not of much use for them at the moment and is positive that Daenerys will not hold the rock for long. Lannister is proven correct and the Unsullied present themselves along with the rest of Daenerys' forces at King's Landing for the summit with Cersei. If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.